Hi viewers and students, a very good day to you guys. Now, I am Eugene and I am a teacher for animation and graphic design courses in a local university here in Malaysia. Now, what I'm going to be demonstrating to you is not a tutorial per se where you can follow step by step. However, it's more of an informational video which consists of two parts. Number one is how to import files and what happens when you import files and the different ways you can import files into After Effects. And the second is how to prepare a file size that of a, a scene that has a relatively large image that you want to zoom into. Yeah, because there are some students who ask how large do our Photoshop files need to be, how, how much do you need to zoom in, so that we'll be covering that using this little project that I've done. I will not show you step by step how I actually animated this. This would be probably in a different video that involves 3D cameras and stuff like that. You can check out one that I will be preparing. The link will be in the description below. But for this one, it is specifically just for how to import files into After Effects. Okay, so I'll just move myself out of the way and show you this little project I have done. Okay, first off, what we will do is I will show you what the sequence looks like. Okay, so it's basically a scene where you have a girl standing on a balcony in a kampong house over the sea, and we're zooming into her. Okay, all right. So now this is the After Effects file, and I think it's best for me to actually start a new project to show you how I would import in the file and what happens when you import in the file. Okay, so I'm just gonna save this first and start a new project. Okay, and of course, I would definitely have to show you how the image is prepared in Photoshop. So now this is the image in Photoshop. Just a little bit of a preview of what I'll be talking about later, which is how large your image needs to zoom in. This little line that you see here is 19201080, which is the resolution of your standard resolution for when you're doing projects. Let me get the stuff away. So yeah, all right, and this is the rest of my artwork, and my artwork has also different layers. If you can see here, I have both the clouds on different layers, my sea is on a different layer, the sky is on a different layer. In fact, if you I have also a folder here in Photoshop, and I think it's good for me to actually demonstrate this to you, how folders appear in After Effects. If I drop this down, you can see that there is house railing, the girl. I segmented it like this because in the event I wanted to animate her, I could do so and still break her up into different pieces and animate her. And then I have her hair, which I did animate. Her hair came in 3 different pieces actually. So I have this part, let's zoom in, this one piece, which is like almost just a strand, and then another piece. So accumulatively they look like this. I also made some grass on the bottom and some bushes here, some trees at the back. So they're all in separate layers. Even this hill is one layer by itself, and the tree behind over here, right here, and also the cliff, the rock cliff itself. I usually like to break up my work like that because sometimes I still feel I want to manipulate them, enhance them. So that's the reason why I keep them all in separate layers. Okay? Alright, so this is my Photoshop file. You've seen how it looks like. Now let's go on to let me get my menu out. Let's go on to After Effects and import this file in. Okay, there are actually 3 methods to import in files in After Effects. So I'm going to go to File, Import File, and the Photoshop file I have is this one, Scenic View. So it's a relatively large file size, I must say. 30 megabytes is a pretty large file size for Photoshop. I'm going to click this, and now you have to go to the bottom here and choose one of these settings, okay? And the one that I'm going to choose is composition retain layer sizes, usually, okay? Um, the reason is, I'll show you the difference between composition and composition retain layer sizes now. Why don't I start with this composition first, okay? I'm going to click on composition, import in as that, make sure this is selected, the file you want. All right, composition, press open, composition still. They will ask you actually 2 times. If you forgot to do it in the first time, you can make it sure another time here. Editable layers, styles. Okay, press OK. Now, whenever you import in an Photoshop file into After Effects, 2 things will appear. First, you will get a folder, and then you will get a composition. When you click on the composition, it is exactly as it is in Photoshop. All right, you might think like, why is the background black? It's because the composition's background is black. If you want to change that, you can go to composition settings and change the background color here. But you will notice that, so if you look at the layers here in this composition, it has the same things you have in the Photoshop file, right? It starts with 192.0 foreground, cloud 2, cloud 1, sea and sky. Same thing, 192.0 foreground, cloud 2, cloud 1, sea and sky. But you were thinking like, wasn't there more stuff in this folder? Correct. So whenever you import in a file into After Effects, that folder becomes a composition by itself. Yeah, so what happens is the files are all still there. Yeah, all of your files are here. You see all your hair, grass, house railing, house, sea, sky, all of that is still there. Okay. However, what they will do is they will take some of these elements that you've placed into the folder and place it into a separate composition itself. Okay, so that is what happens. Now, let's click on one element for instance. Now, this is where importing in via composition or composition retain layer sizes matter. Okay, now let's just click on the girl for instance. Once you click on her, you notice, wait a minute, nothing is happening. Nothing seems to be selected here. Well, actually she is, but the problem is when you select to import as composition, you will notice that the document size or the selection of this object automatically goes to the same size as the document itself. You look at this 7 dots around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, sorry. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, actually 8 little dots around the bounding box. It is the whole size of the composition and the whole size of the document. All right, and this becomes very, very cumbersome if, say, let's say I want to animate her hair, for instance. Once I've selected her hair, you notice that the whole composition is here. I can't see if I've even selected it, which is very uncomfortable to start with in the first place. And the next thing is, if I want to change the anchor point of her hair, it's right down here because it's almost reading as if the hair is this size. And if you want to move the hair, you can't see it. It's huge, right? And if you have a box this large, can you imagine if you've selected all of this different stuff? Let me just kind of move all this stuff around. And if you import in the character, for example, with hands and legs, you have all these giant squares that are all over the place, and it becomes very, very unorganized. Okay? So you might wonder, like, why did they even give you that option? Why do they give you composition? Well, it is really good if you're doing something that has like frame by frame animation. So you've done all of your artwork in Photoshop, and you want to import in everything, and you don't want to move individual pieces, then it's great because it will fix the entire size for you and set the entire size um, to the size of the frame. Okay, yeah. So, but if you want to move individual pieces like this scene here, right? It's going to be very troublesome. All right. So now I'm going to show you the difference. Let's just delete this away. And let's just import the same file again, but this time, let's import it in as retain layer sizes. You see, it mentions very nicely, retain layer sizes, open. It reminds you again, you're going to choose this, retain layer sizes, and press OK. So once you've done that, you will get again your composition and your layers, but look at the difference now. Let's go to the Scenic View, double click this, and we double click this in the foreground where all of the elements are, where all of the girl's hair is. Now, notice her hair, hair 1, hair 2. You notice that the bounding box is no longer this giant size bounding box outside, but it is right where the hair is. So it becomes a lot more manageable. Okay, and the anchor point is right there. If you want to move it, you just press Y, move it to the side, and then you can kind of do your animation bit. But of course, the file I showed you just now of her hair animated has other effects that I've added to it, which is the wave warp. So yeah, that's for a different tutorial altogether. But nonetheless, I hope you understand why I usually would import in as composition retain layer sizes. Okay, it matters a lot. Okay, so now there, I think as I was choosing between composition and composition retain layer sizes, you notice that there is another option when I'm importing in files. So I'm going to go File, Import File, and choose this. You notice that it starts off as footage. Now this is an interesting one. This is if you want to import in individual layers that you have in Photoshop. When would you ever need to do that? Okay, let's say for instance, like I'm doing this project now and all of a sudden I feel, oh, I feel like I need individual leaves. As it zooms in, I would like individual leaves to come in. All right, so probably it's best that I go back to the one that I have already animated. Let's open up that project. Okay, I don't need to save this one. All right, so this is the scene where I have animated. I'm going to just set this to quarter, the preview mode, because it's really heavy. So it zooms in, and as it zooms in, I want some leaves to fly along. Okay, so if I go back to Photoshop, what I can do is in the foreground, because that's where everything is in the foreground. If I shut off the eye for the foreground, all of that is there. What I can do is I can start painting in a leaf. So I'm going to just pick a green from this tree, pick a brush, and because everything is quite stylized, I'm just going to make a dash. Yeah, probably that's how your leaf might look like. Okay, so we have this dash of green. It's going to just fly past anyway. All right, so I'm going to rename this layer as leaf 01, just in case you are going to add some more leaves, so it's best to name it 01. And I usually name it 01. It's very important because in the eventuality you want to have more than 10 leaves, you have double digits to work with. So the 0 is in front there for a reason, and makes file organization a lot easier as well, a lot more organized. So the 0 in front is always very helpful. Okay, so yeah, with this leaf that I have now, you must save your file first in Photoshop. If you don't save your file After Effects will not read it. So if you go back to After Effects, what you will need to do is, I usually like to go to the Photoshop file. This is where all your Photoshop files are. File, import file, go to Scenic View, Footage, press open, choose Footage again. Now, you see when I press Footage, and I can click on Choose Layer, and what will happen is I get to choose whatever layer that is an existing in the Photoshop file that I have just now, and you can see that leaf 1 has appeared. Okay, so I can select this one. Layer size, document size is going to make it look like you're importing in via composition. Layer size is kind of a way to say that I want to import in composition via composition, retain layer sizes. So choose layer size, press OK, and you get your leaf. And then you can put your, let's just click on the composition foreground and put your leaf in, and you can animate the leaf thereafter. Okay, so it's pretty simple like this. So you know 3 different methods, why there are 3 different methods to actually import in your After Effects file. So I would usually, if I'm animating separate different small components, I'm usually going to bring them in composition, retain layer sizes, and that would be something that I think you will be using in my class a lot if you're my student. If you're doing a lot of frame by frame 2D, that would be for different tutorial, and you might probably use a lot more composition and instead of retain layer sizes then. Okay, now the next thing we want to talk about here now is about how large your file size is. Okay, so now you saw the sequence we have just now. Let's just play it again. Scenic View. Okay, so it starts off with a really wide shot of the girl standing at a kampong house, and we're going to zoom into her house, not even a close-up. So it's about 4 times. I think the magnification is about 4 times. So now, let's go back. It's really crucial because we have to go back to our Photoshop file and see how large the file size is. So if you look at my Photoshop file, I painted the image to be really, really large. This is 19201080. Alright? And this is what your screen sees. But you notice that the rest of the environment is very, very large. Yeah, I cannot paint it small. I cannot paint it a smaller size because I'm going to zoom in this amount. Okay? Because if I want to make the file size any smaller, or if I make the image any smaller, then it will pixelate. Okay, just one example is, let me take everything in the foreground, create a duplicate of the foreground. I'm going to collapse this, Control E. So now this whole thing, I've made a duplicate of it. And let's just make this a lot smaller. Okay, let's just say you painted your foreground elements this size because you thought that, oh, I'm going to start zooming in this size, right? But you will notice, okay, let's just rename this as scale down, okay? And we're going to import this layer in to After Effects, okay? So we're going to import this now, Control I, and we only want that layer, so remember, choose Scenic View, Footage, Open Footage, Scale Down. So the layer is here now. Press OK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this scaled down one here. Right? It's really small. Okay? So now, if it's so small, if you want to do a zooming in thing like what we did just now, let's just put this in the new composition. Alright? Oops, sorry, I should not have deleted that. Let's just put this in the new composition. I'm going to create a new composition, and it's going to be 19201080. Right? Press OK. and we have a new composition. We can name this composition scaled down. I'm going to put this scaled down one here. It's really small, right? It seems fine. I'm going to set this back to full. It seems fine here right now. The scale of this object is like at 100. Okay? But if you start increasing, let's say you wanted to do your zoom in, and it's going to increase. Yeah, if you look at the previous scene that I've done, the scenic view, it zooms up quite a bit. It zooms, let's see. Okay, sorry, let's switch off this one, delete this one off, go back to here. We zoom in to the extent all we see is house and a little bit of tree, and let's just try and replicate that here. Increase the size of that. So this is about it. So we've increased the image 259%. Okay, now let's just go in and look at this image here at 100%. You notice that the pixelation is pretty bad. Okay, yeah. So obviously you can't use something that small. You actually, if we go back to the scenic view and we look at this image again at 100%, this is the same zoom, and we change this to full. Wow, you can see all the details in the hair, a blouse, but not in the scaled down one. It looks very, very pixelated, right? Scenic view, scaled down one, right? You can see the blurring of the lines. So, I mean, you have to, if you know that you're going to zoom into this much of this scene, you have to paint it at this size in Photoshop, all right? You cannot paint it at this size, which is over here, okay? Yeah. So if let's say you want to zoom in from this size all the way till you see a medium close-up of her on the balcony, like this, do get ready to paint an extremely large image. Yeah, because as you can see, if I've increased the pixelation, this is at full preview, by the way, you're going to have her very, very pixelated, and that's not what you want to happen. Yeah, so how large an image should be would be how large do you want to zoom it in. If you're not going to zoom in at all, let's say throughout the entire scene, all you're going to view is this, then you can paint it at this size. But I know for a fact that I want to zoom in to this size, so this will be the minimum, this will be the maximum size, sorry, I will be painting it in. Alright, so I do hope you understand how large you need to prepare your images. For example, if let's say you will never see the cloud any larger than this. If you're going to zoom into the cloud here, then you obviously need to paint the cloud a lot bigger. But if this is the maximum size you're going to see it, then yes, you can retain it at this size. Alright, so I hope you do understand how to prepare your files, how to import it in, and how to prepare your files. If you're my student, I will be providing you with the project file for After Effects as well as the Photoshop file so that you can study it, not so much replicate it. How to actually animate this scene would be a lot later in other tutorials. Alright, so for more videos on motion graphics with Adobe After Effects or illustration methods using Photoshop and Illustrator, please click the subscribe button, give this video a like if you find it useful. Also, do follow me on Instagram at eugenosaurus.fu. I also have a Facebook page. If you do happen to want the files as well, and you're not one of my students, do drop me a message there. Both links are in the description below. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye. You might also be interested to check out the basics of After Effects video, or you could check out the other two videos that also deals with parenting, composition lesson, and simple scripts.